Under the intense studio lights of CNN's The Situation Room, former senior counselor to President Trump, Kellyanne Conway, adjusted her microphone as they shone down on her. Her perfectly styled signature blonde hair gleamed, and she was dressed in a sharp navy blazer. With the assured posture of a veteran who had navigated endless political battles, Conway took her seat. Seated opposite her, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett leaned in a bit, her vibrant purple blazer contrasting sharply with the blue studio backdrop, her face showing a blend of resolve and annoyance. The CNN panel was stunned by what unfolded next. Wolf Blitzer kicked off the segment, his voice carrying the serious tone that had established him as a reliable news anchor over many years. In a clash between two of American politics' most vocal women, what began as a discussion on policy rapidly turned into one of the most astonishing confrontations ever broadcast live. Tension had mounted for weeks beforehand. The progressive powerhouse representative, Crockett, had relentlessly criticized the prior administration's policies on any outlet that booked her. Conway, the steadfast protector of Trump's legacy, had at last consented to this direct debate. Viewers were unprepared for how swiftly Conway seized command of the dialogue, cutting in on Crockett with such exact timing and accuracy that it briefly unsettled even the seasoned Congresswoman. Yet it was Conway's closing, crushing line, delivered with the steady accuracy of a seasoned political operator, that silenced the whole panel and concluded the debate in an unforeseen manner. Before we get into this intense political battle, remember to like the video and subscribe to our channel for additional exclusive political breakdowns and clashes you won't find elsewhere. Also, turn on the notification bell to catch all our newest uploads without delay. Kellyanne Conway stood out as more than a typical political figure. Being the first woman to lead a winning presidential campaign, she shattered barriers and exceeded all predictions. Her skill at turning controversial remarks into acceptable talking points won her both fans and detractors. After temporarily withdrawing from the public political arena to prioritize family, Conway returned as a conservative voice and strong advocate for core values. As James Wilton, ex-White House Communications Director, put it, Kellyanne Conway reshaped the role of a political spokesperson. What sets her apart as one of today's top communicators is her talent for redirecting inquiries, reshaping stories, and staying composed amid intense scrutiny. Entering a debate with her means she's not merely joining in, she's directing it. Lately, Conway had picked her media spots wisely, appearing selectively. However, when Congresswoman Crockett suggested on Twitter that Conway feared defending the now indefensible policies she once supported, the dynamic changed. Conway quickly accepted CNN's offer, paving the way for one of the year's highest-rated segments on the network. Jasmine Crockett, meanwhile, embodied the fresh surge of progressive energy in Congress. This newcomer representative soon gained recognition through her fiery speeches on the floor and bold support for left-leaning agendas. As a past civil rights lawyer, Crockett infused her role with courtroom expertise and deep ethical drive. Democratic strategist Maria Cardona observed, "Representative Crockett walks the walk. She carries real-world battles for marginalized groups right into Congress." Her straightforward style positions her as a strong advocate, particularly against what she views as evasive political rhetoric. Crockett had gained traction as an emerging Democratic leader. Her online presence surged following multiple viral clips from hearings, where she cross-examined witnesses like the skilled trial lawyer she used to be. She was often seen as the embodiment of progressive politics' next generation, fearless, resolute, and ready to highlight perceived wrongs. This showdown's implications reached well past the two participants. For Conway, it offered a chance to reaffirm her influence in a changing political world since her White House tenure. For Crockett, holding firm against a top communicator from the Trump years would solidify her as a key player in her party. Off-camera, both prepared thoroughly. Conway examined Crockett's latest remarks, spotting possible inconsistencies and vulnerabilities. Crockett analyzed Conway's past interviews, focusing on her deflection and reframing tactics. Both recognized that in public perception, presentation frequently rivals content in importance. As the show started, the air felt thick with anticipation even through TV screens. Wolf Blitzer's opening reflected the obvious: tonight, we have two women embodying sharply contrasting visions for America's path ahead. They're both renowned for refusing to yield. Each holds firm convictions in their beliefs. The opening query appeared simple. Congresswoman Crockett, you voiced strong criticism of lingering policies from the last administration impacting your district. What's your biggest worry currently? Crockett replied with assurance. Wolf, my primary concern is the ongoing effects of judicial nominees now reversing years of advances in areas like voting rights, reproductive choices for women, and environmental safeguards. These went beyond mere disagreements, they were deliberate moves, too. At that point, Conway interjected for the first time, establishing the escalating tone. With a subtle smile and arched brow, she broke in, your viewers should know that what the Congresswoman terms reversing progress is really devolving authority back to states and citizens instead of appointed officials. The studio mood changed instantly as Crockett narrowed her eyes at the cutoff. If it's all right, I was responding to the question asked of me, Crockett said steadily but assertively. As I mentioned, and I'm just adding context for the audience, Conway cut in once more, her smile steady. Because framing it as stripping rights sounds dire, but it's truly allowing people to decide via their chosen state lawmakers rather than top-down federal rules. Wolf Blitzer sought to restore order. Please let the Congresswoman complete her thought, then you'll get your turn. Thank you, Wolf, Crockett went on. Those judicial picks from the prior administration frequently lacked depth and experience yet held firm ideological views. Now we're witnessing outcomes that unfairly affect minorities, working households, and, that's flatly wrong, Conway interrupted yet again. Those appointees were exceptionally qualified, often earning superior ratings from the American Bar Association compared to prior administrations' choices. The true disagreement lies in their approach to the Constitution, not credentials. Crockett's face tightened, her tolerance clearly thinning. Ms. Conway, I get that cutting in is your tactic to steer the story, but viewers merit hearing full ideas without endless disruptions. Conway replied right away, and viewers merit truthful details. Claiming weak qualifications demands on-the-spot correction. These judges attended elite law schools, clerked for Supreme Court members, and built impressive careers prior to nomination. Glances passed among other panelists as pressure built. Analyst David Axelrod attempted mediation. Maybe a more organized format would help. What would help, Crockett interjected, voice slightly elevated, is if Ms. Conway let me finish one sentence uninterrupted. This goes beyond differing views on the Constitution. It's about nominees who openly signaled intent to reverse protections for core rights. Conway stayed calm in reply, what the Congresswoman labels reversing precedents, others see as fixing prior court excesses. Precedent lacks sanctity if the initial decision was erroneous. Wolf Blitzer tried again for control. Shall we shift topics? Kellyanne, views on the last administration's economy, actually, Wolf, Crockett broke in. I'd rather respond to Ms. Conway's claim on overreach, as it exposes a key distortion or misunderstanding of constitutional processes. Conway's brow lifted a touch as she let Crockett proceed, awaiting her opportunity. Those nominees weren't merely offering alternate readings of the Constitution. They were picked precisely for signaling readiness to ignore precedent for ideology-driven results. That's not independence, it's activism wearing a conservative tag. Conway paused until Crockett ended, then answered. Interesting rephrasing, Congresswoman. Progressive-favored rulings protect rights, conservative ones become activism abruptly. In truth, these judges apply originalist and textualist methods, interpreting the Constitution and statutes as drafted, not as desired. The back and forth grew fiercer as focus turned to economics. Crockett quoted figures on rising income gaps worsened pre-pandemic under the prior administration. She declared, tax changes overwhelmingly aided the richest Americans. But the numbers don't support that, Conway cut in again. Tax cuts reached middle-class households. Wages rose faster than before. Historic lows in unemployment for African Americans and Hispanics were hit. Facts, not spin. Crockett's irritation grew clearer. Ms. Conway, could you possibly let one complete idea through without cutting in? I'm just making sure both views reach viewers at once, Conway answered evenly. Challenging contradictory claims right away is more effective than letting errors linger. This repeated as immigration arose. Whenever Crockett raised concerns over harsh border measures, Conway countered with data on trafficking, drugs, or asylum handling. Midway through, Crockett's growing frustration stood against Conway's steady calm. Social media exploded instantly, with tags like #ConwayInterrupts and #Crockett vs. Conway topping trends. The peak came discussing January 6 Capitol events. Crockett started, "We saw an unprecedented assault on democracy, fueled by rhetoric from." "Hold on there," Conway interjected. "All denounce the violence, but your framing overlooks millions of peaceful demonstrators worried about election fairness. Such sweeping vilification deepens divides." Crockett's tolerance snapped. "Ms. Conway, your non-stop interruptions block any real dialogue. This exemplifies today's political problems: refusal to hear out others, endless overruling." Conway replied calmly yet sharply, "Congresswoman, from long experience in service, I've learned that dodging counters by griping about style often signals weak substance. I'm offering balance for full perspectives." Wolf Blitzer made another order attempt. "Quick break now, structured discussion resumes after." Off-air, staff adjusted gear hurriedly. Palpable tension lingered between the women, no direct words exchanged. Producers conferred urgently with Blitzer, worried about segment control post-break. Home viewers split online. Conservatives lauded Conway's unflappability and strategy. Progressives condemned it as rude and blocking. Clips racked millions of views before commercials ended. Unanticipated by all, the peak drama, the replayed for days moment, was still ahead. Resuming, camera lights on, both seemed poised for more sparring. Yet Conway's manner shifted subtly, hinting at her strongest play incoming. Wolf Blitzer returned gravely, back with former Counselor Kellyanne Conway and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Ground rules for the rest, full points before replies. To Crockett, "Congresswoman, you were on January 6 concerns. Go ahead." Crockett inhaled deeply, nodding. "Thanks, Wolf." As noted, January 6 marked a perilous peak of rhetoric eroding trust in elections absent proof. The prior administration's denial of results fostered belief in baseless claims about democracy. "This is beyond opinion. We face ongoing risks to election workers. And Conway broke in despite rules, must address that directly." "Ms. Conway," Blitzer cut in. "We set to finish points." Wolf, unchallenged major distortions as facts can't stand even briefly, Conway said firmly yet measured. Suggesting zero election worries ignores thousands of sworn statements on anomalies. Debate substantiation aside, denying any evidence is wrong. Crockett shot back visibly frustrated. Those statements faced court rejection, even by Republican-named judges, for lacking basic credibility. This fuels the very misinformation harming trust. Conway smiled faintly. Many dismissals were technical, like standing or deadlines, not merit-based. But on misinformation, Congresswoman, let's address directly. Conway leaned forward a bit, intensity clear, a visible pivot to viewers. From defense to offense. "You've cast yourself as misinformation's foe," Conway said steadily. "But last March, on the House floor, you claimed prior policies caused thousands of migrant child deaths. Bipartisan fact checks deemed it false, no correction followed." Silence briefly hit the studio. Crockett seemed surprised by the detail. "I meant the wider humanitarian effects," Crockett started, but Conway pressed. "Exact words are recorded, Congresswoman. Unambiguous, provably wrong. Interesting how misinformation worries you when you've added to it." Conway stayed conversational yet precise. "Not alone. July, you said education funds dropped 40% under that administration, actually rose annually, inflation adjusted. No correction." Crockett shifted defensively for the first time, not just annoyed. Context framed those in larger debates, figures vary by baseline. Conway nodded lightly. "Context, my exact argument. You've insisted no nuance for prior statements or actions, all falsehoods, no proof, pure misinformation. But your own questioned. Context matters suddenly." The power shift was obvious. Conway turned accuser, pushing Crockett to defend. Panelists glanced, noting the reversal. Conway continued seamlessly. "Last month, claimed full cut to a health program. Documents show 23% reduction, not 0. No correction again. Leaning in, not to shame, Congresswoman, we all slip. But your moral high ground condemning misinformation clashes with your history. Crockett tried recovering. Key distinction exists between debate phrasing slips and intentional institutional undermining via election lies. Stakes differ vastly, trust damage too great. Conway instantly, truly different. As an official, your child death's claim wasn't loose words. Specific, painting mass blame on one administration, serious, uncorrected. Wolf Blitzer redirected, on to current priorities. Wolf, if allowed, Conway smoothly added. This touches discourse core. You've implied one side owns truth, other peddles lies. I'm showing complexity. Minutes more, Conway listed dated, quoted Crockett inaccuracies methodically. Dynamic tilted further, Crockett defending more. Axelrod, feeling imbalance, widened, perhaps admit both sides occasionally falter under fact scrutiny in today's media. Conway agreed, exactly, David. Not one pure, one guilty. Selective standards and outrage are the problem. To Crockett, your sincerity and service I don't question. But your frame, rigorous scrutiny one way, leniency other, doubts fairness. Closing thoughts neared, Blitzer asked each. Crockett, calmer yet less forceful than start, consistency matters, as Ms. Conway notes, but equating debate imprecision with deliberate institutional attacks. Stakes too high, trust harm too deep. Conway's close, brief pause, thoughtful look. Next words became the exchange's hallmark, echoed in analyses weeks later. Congresswoman, you framed my interruptions as narrative control or silencing. But today's revelation is deeper. Unchallenged, your claims carried unwavering moral authority. Challenged with your record specifics, context and nuance emerge, she said, gaze firm. Political discourse's real issue isn't interruptions. It's refusing equal evidence, precision, and fairness standards across sides. Today, I've interrupted not just words, but the double standard behind them. Then the silencing line, maybe rather than protesting interruptions, worry more when personal inconsistencies undermine credibility. Absolute quiet in studio. Crockett froze, surprise and realization mixing. Veteran Blitzer momentarily wordless. Panelists looked around, weight lingering. Blitzer closed, time to wrap. Thanks to Kellyanne Conway and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett tonight. Post-broadcast, clips swarmed social media. Conway's close, maybe rather than protesting interruptions, worry more when personal inconsistencies undermine credibility, shared hundreds of thousands, hailed by fans as political TV's mic drop. Conservatives cheered instantly. Sean Hannity led Fox with the clip, Masterclass in Communication. Ben Shapiro posted, Conway proved her elite status, prepared specifics over vague attacks. Progressives mixed, some decried interruptions as disrespectful, others conceded effectiveness. Rachel Maddow on MSNBC, like or loathe, Conway executed classic jujitsu, absorbed misinformation charges, redirected with examples. Media critics noted tactical pivot. Washington Post's Eric Wemple, Conway didn't merely interrupt, timed shift from defender to accuser perfectly. Her close reframed everything. Next day, Crockett on Morning Joe addressed, typical whataboutism, sidestepped my policy critiques harming people, deflected to supposed errors for evasion. But traction limited, cross-spectrum analysts noted Conway cited, documented specifics, hard to brush off. CNN fact-check verified Crockett's quoted statements inaccurate as said. Conway skipped immediate follow-ups, performance standing alone. Days later on radio, measured, not to humiliate. To expose discourse flaw, standards applied selectively by speaker. Broader effects followed. Experts referenced in debate strategy talks. Dr. Jennifer Mika, Texas A&M political communication professor, Conway showed specifics Trump denials, dated quotes, claims built undeniable counter. Congressional Democrats privately urged caution on bold fact claims open to rebuttal. One anonymous consultant, Conway Crockett warns, don't misinformation accuse without airtight record. GOP messaging adapted to specific Democratic counters over blanket denials. Conway method, shorthand in strategy. For CNN, year's top clip, YouTube over 7 million week 1. Quick follow-up panel scheduled, sans participants. Media trainers saw demand spike for Conway-style prep. Carville, simple, prep thoroughly, stay consistent. Weeks later, Crockett office statement, some prior stats imprecise, broader critiques valid. Seen as indirect Conway nod, no direct mention. Conway's visibility soared, memoir sales up 300%, bookings doubled per sources. Shows vied for her, ratings potential clear. Beyond individuals, sparked wider debate on digital era arguing, interruptions as tool, fact responsibility, cross-partisan consistency. David Brooks, New York Times, Conway's cuts illuminated our era, in non-stop interrupt media, real question, do they enforce accountability or block clarity? Academics added clip to rhetoric courses, strategic interruption, evidence rebuttal, specifics over denials illustrated. Crockett's lasting shift, later appearances more cautious, detail-focused, less broad opponent attacks. Strategic or evolved, debated by watchers. Ultimately, more than viral clash, study in communication evolution amid contested credibility, multi-platform consistency challenges. Expert summary, Conway's edge wasn't mere interruption, substantive over obstructive. Halted not speech, but inconsistency with record. Months on, same panel surprise at policy conference, breath held for repeat. Instead, civil, fact-bound exchange, qualifiers where needed. On prior CNN, Conway smiled, valuable lessons for both, video archives, instant checks mean credibility from consistent truth, not volume. Crockett agreed, and holding self to opponent expected standards benefits all. That cross-aisle accord drew less buzz than clash, yet deeper, beyond wins and virality, enduring credibility demands accuracy over party. Conway's interruptions didn't halt dialogue, they reshaped it, confronting not just claims, but represented double standards. Forced broader reckoning with discourse plague, demanding rigor from foes, forgiving lapses in friends. As Conway noted, rather than interruption complaints, concern when inconsistencies undermine credibility. In Talking Point, partisan-heavy politics, rare true insight beyond short-term wins, reminder deeper fight is sustained trust. If this Conway clash breakdown appealed, like and subscribe for deeper political dives. Bell on for updates on key American discourse moments. Comment your take on Conway's tactics, effective or troubling. Watch. Thanks.